What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down fresh out. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, represent the channel, subscribe at Big Herc, actually, fresh.series.com. You don't want to miss any of the stuff we have up and coming. Check out our locals. I've been featuring a lot more military people on the channel because our veterans don't get enough props. So I've been having people on the channel. And today with me, I have my man Pete, a Marine Raider, retired Marine. And man, he's got some hell of a stories. And Pete, you know, we see a lot of Hollywood movies out there. Some of them look like they hired a consultant. Some of them, they look like they hired Howdy Doody, you know, on some of the scenes. But you've experienced some real shit. Now, one of my most recent favorite series, I don't know if you've seen it, is Terminal List.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Terminal List? And then I would like to, you to tell us some stuff you've experienced that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, I thought it's a good book. It's
written by a Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL, right?
Yep, so I think it's like 4 or 5 books, good series. But The Terminal List, I thought like the action was good, the level of violence, like the whole plot, like I was into it.
What about that storyline about the Pentagon, Silicon Valley with the testing the...
I mean, dude, they test stuff on us all the time.
I know. That was pretty deep.
Thing, like military and prison thing where it's like, hey, we're going to test this, we're going to test that. I mean, I remember, around 2000, early 2000s, they were testing anthrax on guys, like the actual shot, and people didn't know what it was. Like, hey, just come get your shot, show up to medical, get your shot, go whatever.
That's what they do in prison. Hey, medical shot, and then they're giving away like a little ice cream.
Yeah, yeah.
You get a little ice cream at medical. You're like, what do they do? Hey, dude, they got ice creams up there.
Yeah.
They're giving away it's a new cold shot. What?
Yeah.
What about the ice cream?
Yeah. No, they did that. Yeah, it's a trip. So, and then as far as, so I did one deployment to Fallujah, Iraq in 2005, and then I went to, it's called the Helmand Valley. So it's southern Afghanistan, 2007, 2009, 11, and 12. And so for all those special operations, as a Marine Raider, and just the level of fighting, I would say jumped up each time, right? And so that was kind of something to just also behold where you're like, you know, in 2012, I'm in the same villages I was going to in 2007. And you're like,
shit.
While it's fun, you know what I mean? Like, I don't regret anything I did. War is very fun, right? Like, when things are going right. But you would kind of, like, sit back and just, like, you're smoking a cigarette, and you're like, dude, I was just here, like, 2 deployments ago. Like,
was it, like, Groundhog Day? Like, trippy? Like, you'd be like, damn,
sometimes,
I'm back here?
Sometimes, yeah. You'd be like,
You'd have that moment, like...
Oh, yeah, multiple times. You're like, you're doing something, you're like, I fought over there, I've been in that house, my homie Chris got killed over there, like... All right, I'm still doing it. So
now, you know, when I think about Afghanistan, that one movie that brings me back, I forgot the name of it, but it had that guy. Remember, the village saved him, but he got separated and they killed his whole. And they were looking for him. What movie was that?
Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor. And like, how real is that?
So the level of fighting can be like very, very intense. So I mean, I'll take my last deployment in 2011 and 12. We'd go out typically like 10 to like 15 U.S. and then our partner nation force of like 90 Afghan commandos. So we'd fly out on helicopters and we'd typically be like 3 to 5 U.S. and then 30 Afghan commandos, 2 interpreters, and you would just go out and fight all day. And so in terms of like the level of fighting, you know, there'd be days we'd kill 40, 50, 70 dudes in a day.
Damn.
And so like, I think The Lone Survivor, definitely some Hollywood stuff in there, but just in terms of like how well the Afghans were trained. Because remember, we trained the Mujahideen in the 80s.
To fight the Russians.
Yeah. And so it's like, you would see them use our own tactics. You'd be in the middle of a gunfight and you'd see this element run over there and that, and you're like, oh shit, I know what they're doing. I know what's next.
Oh shit.
You know? And so, but then it was good because you knew you could counter it, but like you would watch these guys run your own playbook on you, right? And so that was always a trip. And then in terms of just the level of fighting, you know, there'd be in like a single engagement, you'd have like a recoilless rifle. So it's just a really big rocket. It sounds like a VW bug, like flying over your head. Like it's a massive, massive round. RPGs, AKs, PKMs, and RPKs.
A lot of 50 cals?
They have a Dishka. So that's like a little bit bigger than a 50 cal round. And so when that thing starts going off, I've only had that happen one time, and that's a hairy situation. So really just, you can hear the slower, deep thump, the dun 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 dun, like you know it's coming.
So were they armed with shit like you were like, or were you guys outgunning them, or were they gunned pretty good with stuff they've acquired through whatever, to where when you guys, you've gotten in a firefight with them and be like, God damn, what do they got over there?
Yeah, both. I've been definitely in both situations. There's times again where we can listen to their radios, right? So they're just using walkie-talkies. So we would literally just scan. We'd pick up their channel and you would listen. And they're like, all right, hey, we see the truck with the red flag on it. Shoot an RPG. And you're like, oh, shit. I'm flying red today. Like, and then
damn,
poof, an RPG would go flying across the hood, and then you're just in the middle of a fight. And then there would be times where like they were really accurate with like mortars. So, probably equivalent to like our 60 millimeter mortar, where they would hit, like right outside of our truck on like a third round. So one would go really far, one would go really short. We call it bracketing. And then the third one, no shit, landed right outside of one of our trucks one day.
Oh, shit.
Blew out all 4 tires, a bunch of the undercarriage, 2 guys got wounded. And then you're fighting from there, right? And so they're watching you the whole time. And it's kind of a trip being able to listen to it, because you'll be out running around and then, you'll hear them. And then there's a relay because the interpreter is listening to it. And so you're out gunfighting, and then all of a sudden, ICOM chatter says, shoot the guy in the black t-shirt in the face. And you're like, oh shit, that's me. Like, that's me.
Oh shit.
And so it's like, they can see you, bullets are skipping off around you. And so it's hairy, but it's just a really aggressive game of chess. Like, it's really fun when it's going well, like when you are winning.
Yeah.
And then there's also been times where it's been like me and like probably half dozen like Afghans and no interpreter, and just like fighting, and so you're looking around with guys that don't speak your language, totally different beliefs, and you're out and you have that same common goal of like destroying and fighting the enemy.
Now, with most of the fighting, is it a mix between a day and night, or more nighttime, or
more daytime?
More daytime?
Definitely more daytime. We'd get into it every once in a while at nighttime, or if we were on a target. A handful of times you're flying in on the helicopter, and same thing, they can hear this giant thing coming into land, and you're looking out through your night vision out of the ramp of the aircraft, and it just looks like the 4th of July.
Shit.
And so at the same time that's going off, you're landing on the ground. We had a really close engagement one night. We're taking AK fire towards the aircraft, land. I'm the first guy running off the back of the helicopter, and an RPG goes screaming like probably 20 yards, if that, just right in front and blows up. So yeah, they're pretty good, man. Definitely, like they're a pretty good opponent.
Now, I was talking with Cody, man. He's like, or like saying like, did the U.S. really win Afghanistan, or did they just leave like everybody else? Because like even talking with Brian, he's like, dude, people have been trying to conquer that land since Genghis Khan. They can't conquer it, and Russians couldn't do it. Nobody. Yeah. I mean, dude, they've been standing strong in those mountains for who knows how long.
Yeah, no, and they will. I would say. Yeah, we took the L on that one, dude. And it sucks, right? Because you lose a lot of buddies, and it's not great for the families to hear that.
Yeah.
But what else do you call it? Yeah. You know what I mean? We left a lot of stuff over there. We left a lot of we definitely didn't leave it better, So.
But they got new equipment. They got upgrades. All the. I'm seeing the dudes got new stuff, and they're kicking it. And they're rolling down the I seen some of the military vehicles. They showed the Taliban flying on Instagram flossing.
Yeah, dudes flying around in Blackhawks. Like, they'll figure that stuff out, man. I mean, because again, like, they're doing the same stuff we're doing, right? And you can find probably most of our manuals and publications like open source online.
Just teach yourself off YouTube. They're watching YouTube.
Yep. And so like there'd be times, so I'll give you a good example. So we would go out, sometimes for like one night cycle up to like 30, 40 days. Some guys would go out and you're just fighting every day. So we were going out for, I think it was 10 days, so 9 night cycles, land, it's kind of quiet, kind of calm. As soon as the sun comes up, you're fighting, like immediately. Like
it's like it's on,
dude. It's like you come in, you clock in, boop, like whistle goes off.
What's that cartoon? Remember the coyote and
went
in?
The sheepdog.
Yeah. Okay,
exactly
see you tomorrow.
Like. Yep. Yeah. And so they clock in, and then you're fighting. And so the second night of that operation, we're moving through like a literal minefield. Like, no joke, Perk, like a minefield. Like, everywhere you look, you're like,
what was the goal getting through there? Like you said, like, what were they telling you guys? Okay, we're going to take this area for what?
So our big thing was kind of like the big brother of the area, where you had like regular, like Marine or British infantry guys out at their camps, and the Taliban are constantly harassing them, constantly targeting them. They can't get a resupply convoy in there, like that kind of thing. So we would go out and smash and kill all of those guys. And so that was like, to me, was a really good way just to like sleep at night. Like, I'm killing these guys because they're trying to kill these guys, and like I don't want Americans or like Brits, whoever, coalition guys to be getting hurt over this. So at least that's how I would justify it, right?
And what was the major resource now looking back that you've seen that the United States was over there and some of these other countries to try to control? What was the geopolitical objective?
I don't know. That's a great question, man. Because I think in terms of like, what is it, like 80% of the world's opium, I think, comes out of southern Afghanistan. So like, dude, you'd be beautiful. You'd be in the middle of a gunfight, and there'd be kind of a lull. You'd clock out real quick, boop, clock out, smoking a cigarette, and you're just looking around. And you're like, this is really pretty, man. There's like this beautiful, like babbling brook, beautiful, because the poppy is this like pink, purple, kind of reddish flower as far as you could see. Just beautiful. But you would just know like the end state of that, you know, what that.
So was the Taliban? Now, when the Taliban was there, was that their main source for financing their economy over there, like getting that going? Because I know somebody, you know, Brian was saying about they would harvest that, and then Pakistan helped move it. So they were, and I know compared to Mexican heroin, that heroin is the highest grade, and a lot of people don't realize these pharmaceutical companies use part of that to cut with their other stuff. It's not just all synthetic. So that right there makes a lot of these other drugs that make their way into.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, we would find 5, 6 like medicine-sized balls of pure opium, just dark brown, just pure opium.
God.
And then when we first went over there, we would destroy it, we'd get rid of it, and then towards the latter part, they're like, hey, give it to the locals. You know, that's how they buy groceries for the year. Like, you can't mess with it. And so then you're kind of caught in that like counterinsurgency conundrum of, well, that's going to pay for their groceries, but then that's also going to pay for bullets and bombs and the bad guy stuff. So what do we do? And then you're just that end guy on the ground, you know, you're just kind of hands in the air of like, dude, I'm going to give this back to you because I want your people to like thrive and have food, and like you got kids, but I know where this is going to go. And so
but looking at the big scope of it now, and I mean, even like, you know, when you get out of like, oh, you know, you get out of the emotional rah America, you realize it's a big business, man.
Yeah.
You know, okay, those big balls of opium, now those could trade and buy tanks, they can buy other things, they can you know, facilitate medical supplies, and then you have some of that stuff makes its way over here to this country, you know, and maybe the Eastern European bloc gets cut, distributed to this guy, he's a kingpin, makes its way. It's just all connected, man. Yeah. I just seen where they did an edict in, you know, in the cartel. Sinaloa said, man, no more fentanyl, you get death penalty.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody's working. It's just like one big business, man.
Yeah. Yep, because then you're killing your end customer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't want that. So, yeah.
And it's obvious for, you know, people who don't know, what, you know, how this is all connected. Now, what about like dealing with like PTSD post? I mean, what is one of the biggest things with that? Because I know a lot of people suffer from that, even coming from prison. And how much could you really trust a lot of these Afghan commandos, man? I mean, you guys were working with these guys, but were they really trustworthy, or did you feel like there was some compromise there? And when you're out in the battlefield, you know, you got to take a shit, bro. You got to put, what the hell how's that going down?
Yeah, so that time, 2011, 2012, we call it the insider attack, and that was becoming very, very prevalent. It's a very potent weapon. You know, your guard's kind of down. You're kind of trusting these guys a little bit. After my team left in the summer of 2012, 3 good friends were killed in an insider attack at their camp. There was always a worry, you know what I mean? Like when we would go and train those guys, it would always be like, hey, if you know, Herc and I are going to go, Herc's going to teach a class, and then Pete's just guardian angel. And then I'm just standing there with a rifle, and you're just watching everybody the whole time. I'm not paying attention to you, you're teaching, you're doing your thing, and I'm just watching just to see if anybody's going to get wild. So you put a lot of trust into them, you know, but then like when we would lose a guy, you know, one of the Americans, like our commandos that we had trained are like, they're crying. They're you know, they're super shook up about it. Man, it's a complex situation to be in. You know, I had gotten into a point where Chase this guy down. He's got a PKM machine gun. We get into a gunfight. I shoot him a bunch of times, and one of the Afghan commandos is like, hey, Commander Pete, we should medevac this guy. I'm like, we're not going to bring in a helicopter. Like, we're still fighting over here. Like, that dude has no head. Like, what are we going to try and medevac? Like, there's nothing to do. And then we get back to the house that we're staying in, and I remember he's just looking at me the whole time, just looking at me. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is getting weird. He was like a less than stellar, like, commando, and so I'm just sitting there scheming, and I'm like, hey, so I tell his boss, I'm like, Commander Hussein, that guy over there, he saved all of our lives today. He's the reason that we defeated these Taliban in the ambush. We killed all these guys. We got all their weapons. He's a hero. So they go over there and they're like picking this dude up, and he's just staring at me like, motherfucker. Like, he knew, but then we were fine, right? Like, no one.
You had to do the Jedi mind trick on him, though.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it's just stuff like that. So then you're worried because, dude, there'd be times there'd be 4 Americans in a compound. We'd have our 30 commandos, 2 interpreters, and then like 70 local males all in that compound. And so like you're not sleeping, you're just like hanging out, like just chain smoking cigarettes, and you're just waiting. You're like, dude, I don't know. Like, this one's kind of dicey.
Well, you got to be thinking like, because in the back of their mind, you guys over here, man, shit. I mean, really, what's going through their mind? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Foreigners in their country, dude. It's like, imagine people running around here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, dude, you're getting down with these guys.
Well,
I mean,
we would see it too, dude. We'd see it where, so the Taliban is predominantly a Pashtun tribe. So we would go out and do ambush patrols, and we'd see Taliban loaded to the teeth. And you'd be like, all right, guys, like, shoot them now. And then they'd be like, oh, the gun jammed, or they'd shoot over them or around them. And then we started to talk, and we're like, hey, every time you take those guys out, are they killing them? No, they're not doing it. And you're like, So then we would take out Tajiks or Uzbeks, like different tribes, and then they were just cutting people in half. And you're like, oh, cool. Well, from now on, when we go and do ambush patrols, like, we'll just leave the Pashtuns on
because
watch.
of the same religion?
Same tribe.
Tribe.
Yep,
oh,
same
tribe.
Yep.
Oh.
And so
it's tribal.
Yeah. And so it's stuff like that where it's like, we don't get that. You know what I mean? But you're talking like since like the dawn of time.
That's what our culture doesn't understand. It's like, even like you look in Africa and people are like, oh, Africa, blah, 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 go to Africa, brace. Dude, there's African people, they're slashing off arms, hacking people. I mean, they'll murder a whole bunch. You're like, why they do that? Because they look like they're all black.
Yeah.
But they're different tribes.
Dude.
And that shit is deeply rooted.
Look at Iraq. You've got Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, the Tigris and the Euphrates River, like Sunnis and Shiites from the dawn of time. Like, we're not doing this. And we're like, hey, go vote. Go democracy. Go freedom. And they're like, no, man, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. But we don't get that because that goes back to the ideology part that we just don't understand. We're so young as a nation, we don't understand what that looks like.
Well, plus, too, like, see over here, oh, you know, come give me a hug, be a good Christian, and be tolerant. It doesn't work like that, bro. It doesn't work like that. No, people ain't going. You're not going to go over there and Christian. You're not going to do a mission over there.
No.
They're going to capture you like they did a couple of the other Mormons. And, dude, they take their heads off, man.
Yeah. No, it's a real thing, man. It's a very real thing.
Now, what if you got to take like a piss or a shit during a fight, man? You just hold that. You don't even think about it, huh?
You're not thinking about it, dude.
Because your adrenaline's pumping so hard.
Same, like, you've been in a fight, right? Where it's like you're fighting, like the last thing you're thinking about is like, oh, I got to go piss real quick. If it's like a prolonged fight, especially if you're like really dehydrated, like, you know, I've seen dudes out there, you're gunfighting, you get down real quick and then barf or take a shit, do whatever you got to do, pop right back up, and then you're in it. But yeah, there'd be days, I mean, you'd fight like all day.
Wow.
You know, we're doing resupplies. A helicopter would come and land. We would have, we call them a speedball. So you'd have a prepackaged, we'd use body bags because there's lots of handles, they're durable, you might need it. And in there we'd have all bullets, bombs, band-aids, whatever we needed. And so that'd be like in the middle of the day, like, hey, we're fighting this way, come land over here, we're gonna get that, and we're gonna keep going and keep fighting all day long.
Man, so, dude, people have no clue, man. These guys like this really serious type shit like this, and they just think like, oh, you know, and then people like, I would never fight for this country. I mean, blah, 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 blah. I mean, what would you say today for a young kid and, you know, dealing with the military and talking about going to fight for a foreign war? What would you tell a young person?
Think about your options. Think about what else is out there. Don't do it if you're desperate. Do it for the right reasons. You know, and like I said, like my first deployment was like red, white, and blue, Toby Keith, America. And then after that, like I stayed with the same guys throughout my entire 12 years in. And so it was always that feeling like if I don't go and something happens to Will or to Frank or to Joe, like it's my fault. Like I could have prevented it. And then when you're a young guy, like, dude, you're getting paid. You get rewarded for being violent, for being aggressive. Like, dude, you went out and killed 6 people today. Like, here's a medal. Good job. And you're like, all right, I did do good. Like, cool. You know, and like as a young man, like you're looking for that approval. You're looking for that acceptance. You know, because I remember like when I first like got to like a team, the guys that are sharing the locker next to me, Josh and Owen killed 34 dudes between breakfast and dinner in a single day, just the 2 of them, with like bolt action sniper rifles.
Damn.
In Iraq. You know what I mean? So to me, it was always like, dude, I like aspire to do that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Dude, like you know, what does he say on Wolf of Wall Street? Like, those are rookie numbers. Like, bump that shit up. You know?
Oh, shit.
And so it's like, and that kind of like segues into like the PTSD part of it. Like, dude, if you go through a traumatic event, like you're going to think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My big issue with it is I know plenty of people that some of the most guys that have killed more people than malaria, and they're good fathers, they're good coworkers, they're good people, they're thriving, they're doing well. You're going to deal with it. You know what I mean? I went through a phase where I was having like very just repetitive nightmares. And like Herc, I would wake up like spitting out like chunks of my molars from just like grinding my teeth down.
Oh, shit. I know. I was grinding mine for a while too.
Yeah, because that's your body's just getting that shit out. You know what I mean? But like during the daytime, you might feel fine. But then at nighttime, that brain's working. What's back there wants out.
Yeah, so, I have nothing like what you've experienced, but like the grinding, the nightmares. It wasn't until I went with Big Ant, we went back to a prison in Idaho, and I got to go and leave on my own accord.
Yeah.
Where I broke that cycle.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, dude, I'm not stuck. You know, I'm not. Yeah. I can leave. I'm not like coming in here on handcuffs, and it psychologically kind of broke that, and then kind of getting a peace of mind. But yeah, I understand it. And then you know what too? I find it hard because I get mad. I try not to do it, but I get mad when people don't have the same intensity for something that I have. Like if I'm saying, like if we're like going to work on a project together or we're working toward a goal, and I see like this person's like, he's not as enthusiastic, they're not like as gung ho. I'm like, you're fucking weak. Mm-hmm. Dude, why aren't you doing it like this? Why aren't you as gun ho? And I got to realize not everybody's that intense. And a lot of times I think I scare people and they go, oh, I'm cool. I don't want to even get involved with that dude. Because I like, when I commit, if you say, let's do something, dude, I'm not going to let you down.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have a problem letting people down.
Yeah.
Dude, I know people who show up an hour late, 2 hours late, people who don't care. Like, dude, they just like, it's no big thing. But it's like, dude, it's like, really?
Because you have an experience that shaped you, that then turned things that normal people would complain about into gratitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about like when you first got out and you're like standing in line at Starbucks and everyone's like, oh, this fucking line's too long. And you're like, dude, I'm in line on my own. This shit's cool. Like, you know what I mean? And so like, and then also too, like your worst day is still your worst day. There's no like, oh, you did this many gunfights, and like your worst day, your traumatic events, there's no like scorekeeping. You know what I mean? Like that shit still fucked you up, and just however you deal with it is how you deal with it. But just because that was a job. You know what I mean? I think that's like a common misnomer where it's like, oh, you're a veteran and you were in combat. Like, oh man. And you're like, no, man, like you were in prison for how long? There's kids in South Chicago right now that see dead bodies and gunfights. They've been in more gunfights than I've been in. Yeah. Those kids don't get sympathy. You know what I mean? And so it's like your worst day is still your worst day.
Well, that's why I said, like, you know, what I try to do now is turn that same like into a creative passion and something that's more productive, because you know, a lot of people don't know how to do that. So I'm like, you know, I try to help people with that through art or sharing this channel, and just looking at it differently, because you know, I talk to a lot of young people and they don't have they're like, how do you get a hobby, man? I don't have a passion. I'm like, dude, you never thought about like trying to build something when you were a kid, like had a vision and like, you know, I'm gonna build this badass BMX bike. I'm gonna get these handlebars with these wheels, or this skateboard with these. You know, I was always building shit and creating shit or making the other You gotta have something outside yourself, because you gotta replace something with something. So my adrenaline, like, you know, sometimes driving fast through the canyons, you know, if I rushing, you know, get off on this, or, you know, or doing something edgy, but you gotta have something where it replaces, whether it's be the, you know, you got to replace the bottle, you got to replace the drug, you got to replace, you know, maybe a sex addiction, something that's more constructive. So a lot of people don't know how to do that, but I say that's the key to me as far as finding peace of mind, because you can't get too caught up on everything around you, because if you do, you'll lose yourself there. Like you see that in combat where people, you know, are being stationed somewhere and they just go crazy and they come back and they're not the same. And I've seen it in prison. I said, oh, that dude's 5150 now. He's institutionalized, he's done. he's standing around like this. Yo, homie. I'm like, dude, this is Ralph's.
Yeah.
This is not the yard, bro.
Yeah.
Chill the fuck out. You know, some people but they're fucked up, and those are the people I go back. You know, and it's sad, man. But like, you can't let your mind. Once they get your mind, you're fucked.
What's helped me too is like your identity. You know what I mean? For the longest time, I'm like, I'm only a Raider because that's all I did.
Yeah.
Eat, sleep, shit, breathe. Like that's all I want to do is do that.
Yeah.
And even for like the first few years when I got out, it's like, well, who are you? I'm like, my name is Pete. I'm a former Raider.
Yeah.
And you're like, who cares? You know what I mean? But that took a while to like shake that off.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe it's like the same thing coming out of prison. We're like, I'm inmate number blah whatever, or I did this. It's like, no, I'm just Pete.
You're right. No, you're right. I felt like I had to explain myself because women, you're 34 years old. You have no kids. You don't have. What have you been doing? Where you been at? I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
I don't have no fine. I don't have nothing. Like, dude, you're starting from zero. Like, where you been at? I mean, dude, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, you got it. That's a hard reality too, coping with that. But, you know, that's one of the reasons why I started the channel is to kind of like address those things. And I think now by having more ex-military and military people on the channel, it creates, you know, paints a more vivid picture and creates more dialogue because these are the type of conversations that we need to have, bro. So I appreciate you coming on the channel, sharing your story, man.
Thank you for having me.
And just like being raw with it, because like, you know, you've seen it, but you know, you're not sitting here saying, yeah, you know, we're out here fighting for democracy and saving Americans across the world, helping people.
Fighting for the homies. That's it, dude. That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, shit, that's some bullshit. It's like, you know, I'm representing the hood. I got the hood tattooed on my chest.
Yeah.
They don't know shit. Don't nobody give a damn.
No.
You know, got the hood on your chest, you know? So it's the same shit, man. But there you have it, man. Big Herc 916 getting down with Pete on Fresh Out. You tired of smelling like stanky butt, funky armpits? Wash your ass. Go to FreshOutSeries.com and pick you up a bar of soap.